I now recognize the gentleman from Mississippi, Mr. Guess, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Secretary, it's great to see you again. Thanks for appearing before us again. I want to echo some of the remarks of Mr. McCall. I want to first thank you. I want to thank the men and women who serve under your command for the incredible job that you have done over the last 12 months. We have seen that you are active in enforcing the rule of law. We have seen a border that is as secure in our lifetime as we have ever seen. You mentioned in your opening statement over the last 4 years, we saw somewhere between 15 to 20 million illegal immigrants enter the country. Just looking at monthly statistical data, we know that under the Biden-Harris administration that in December of 2024, that there were over 300,000 illegal immigrants who were encountered along the southern border in that month alone. Recent statistics by the Department of Homeland Security for October, the most recent statistics we have, show that the number of border encounters for October of this year under your leadership have dropped to 11,000, a decrease of over 95%. And so I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for the work that your men and women have done to protect our borders from illegal narcotics entering the country. We saw a press release the Coast Guard sent out this week regarding Operation Pacific Viper. And they mentioned a specific seizure that occurred on December the 2nd by the Coast Guard cutter Monroe, in which in a single incident of interdiction that the Coast Guard had the largest maritime interdiction seizure in almost 20 years, seizing 20,000 pounds of cocaine in an individual seizure. So I thank you for your aggressive actions in enforcing the law and for the incredible work that you and the men and women under your command are doing. I want to talk about, as we talk about threats, I want to talk about threats against law enforcement. Last week, this committee, we had a hearing. The hearing was entitled When Badges Become Targets. And during that hearing, we talked about the threats to law enforcement, specifically federal law enforcement. And even specifically within federal law enforcement, the threats toward ICE agents, the threats toward you and other members of leadership within DHS. We know that those threats and those incidents of physical attack have escalated dramatically, in some cases over 1,000%. And part of the driving force, I believe, behind those threats is what I refer to as rhetoric against law enforcement. And I brought this up last week, and I want to bring this up again with you and give you a chance to briefly address this. These are just roughly 10 of the statements that I was able to easily find online by elected officials, governors, mayors, in many cases members of Congress, where they were spewing what I believe to be very harmful statements toward law enforcement. Governor Pritzker claimed that ICE is grabbing people off the street and disappearing them, that our country is becoming Nazi Germany. Representative Crockett compared ICE to slave patrols. Representative Garcia referred to ICE as thugs. Representative Ramirez attacked ICE as a terror force, later a terrorist organization, and then later in the hearing said, let me be clear, the Department of Homeland Security, you can quote me on that, is the single biggest threat to public safety right now. Representative Tlaib said ICE is terrorizing our community, turning our country into a fascist police state. Representative Jayapal called ICE agents deranged and said it's inspiring to obstruct immigration enforcement. Governor Walz smeared ICE agents as modern-day Gestapo. Chicago Mayor Johnson accused ICE of being secret police and terrorizing our community. Representative Lynch referred to ICE agents as the Gestapo and nondescript thugs. And Representative Frost compared ICE operations to some of the worst horrors and crimes against humanity in history. And so, Secretary Noem, I'd like to give you a few moments to, one, address these statements and to speak to how these statements place the safety of our men and women of law enforcement at risk.
Thank you, Congressman Guest. I appreciate you giving me the chance to talk about this because I think the words that these elected officials have used to describe our law enforcement officers are horrific, shocking, and unacceptable. Every single American citizen should find the words that they have used to describe these men and women that took an oath to keep us safe unacceptable and needs to be pointed out that we are seeing the consequences of those words every single day by the violent attacks.
Gentlemen's-
1,000% increase in
gentlemen's
violent
time's
attacks,
expired.
8,000% in death threats.
Gentlemen's
It's
time
unacceptable.
gentlemen's time expired. I now recognize the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Tanadar, for 5 minutes of questions. Please remember to stick to the 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Garbarino and Ranking Member Thompson, for having this hearing today. I know the American people have been demanding answers from this administration on their unlawful actions, so I hope we are able to get some useful answers from our witnesses today. Secretary Noem, this past May, I asked you during a congressional hearing if it was the policy of DHS to follow orders issued by federal courts. You said on the record, and I'm quoting here, "We are following all federal orders." End of my quote, end of your quote. Secretary Noem, you lied to me under oath that day. You lied to the American people, and you have betrayed the trust placed upon you in your role as Secretary of Homeland Security. You defied federal court orders when you refused to order the deportation flights to El Salvador in March to turn around. Federal courts have also found your department to have violated federal injunctions in your continue to send non-citizens on deportation flights, with some courts having called your orders unlawful. Secretary Noem, I just have 3 questions for you. 1, why did you lie under oath by saying DHS was following all federal court orders when they clearly were not?
Congressman.
Question 2, let me finish my questions. Question 2, why did you mislead the American people when you said that no American citizens have been arrested or detained by federal immigration agents? And my last question, number 3, Donald Trump said that your ICE agents haven't gone far enough. Do you think terrorizing American citizens and assaulting peaceful protesters isn't far enough?
Congressman, the Department of Homeland Security and this administration complies with all federal court orders. We always have and we always will.
Not true.
And we will continue to appeal. And, sir, I will even tell you that at the highest court, at the Supreme Court, the Department of Homeland Security in our litigation has an over 90% success rate in winning at the highest court in our battle against activist judges across this country.
Madam
We have
Secretary,
activist judges that we will
the-
continue to appeal. And then when it gets to the highest court and we get a decision, it is proven that
I
we
wanna
are
reclaim
right,
my time
that we
here.
have been compliant. I will also say, you
Ma-
talk
Madam-
about
Madam
deporting of
Secretary, let
US
me-
Do you want me to answer your questions or not?
I do, but let me, you haven't been telling us the truth. Look, there have been at least 170 known cases of citizens being arrested or detained by federal immigration agents this year alone. This is the truth. Are you lying to the American people right now by denying these reports?
When we are doing our targeted enforcement operations against criminal illegal aliens, individuals that are in that area may be detained until we verify who they are, and then they are released. This has been done for years, and every single law enforcement operation that has always happened, we follow the same protocols, and we continue to do that. We have never once detained or deported an American citizen. We have not held them
Not
and
true.
charged them. When we find out
Not
and
true.
verify their identity, then that is when they are released. You also asked about ICE agents going far enough. Sir, I will tell you that every single ICE agent, CBP agent, federal law enforcement officer that's out there doing their work every day, none of them will rest until our communities are safe. None of them will rest until
Secretary
terrorists,
Noem, it
criminals
is a fact that
off
you
of our
ignored federal
streets,
orders.
and our children and our grandchildren can grow
Let
up
me
in a
reclaim
country
my
that
time
truly
here,
is
please.
safe.
Let me reclaim. Secretary Noem, it is a fact that you ignored federal court orders in March and in May of this year. Do you plan on ignoring more federal orders?
We always
I'm
comply
sick
with
of,
all federal
sick
court
of your lies, and the American people demand the
Because
truth.
you keep saying it doesn't make it true.
I am sick of your lies. The American people are sick of these lies. American people demand truth.
America is very happy that finally they have a president in the White House that gets up every day to keep them safe.
Madam Secretary, your incompetence and your inability to truthfully carry out your duties of Secretary of Homeland Security, if you're not fired, will you resign?
Sir, I will consider your asking me to resign as an endorsement of my work. Thank you very much.
I yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. I'll remind members that they are entitled to ask questions during their time. Witnesses are entitled to answer those questions. Members are entitled to reclaim their time. So if we're going to have questions and answers, please allow it. You can reclaim your time if you want, but witnesses are here voluntarily. Please at least give them a chance to answer the questions that you're asking. I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Pfluger, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's unfortunate that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle for 5 straight years now have no concern for anything worldwide threats-wise, and have proven that. We're supposed to be talking about worldwide threats, but unfortunately we're talking about homeland threats in our homeland. And Director, can you just reaffirm the number for us of people that match the terror watch list that are in our country?
There's 18,000 known and suspected terrorists in the country right now that came in under Joe Biden's watch.
18,000.
18,000.
That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
And that's just what we know of, Congressman.
Secretary, despite even members on this committee that have called our law enforcement and ICE and DHS and Border Patrol and other agents names and slandered them, I support you, and I support what you're doing to secure the homeland. The Working Families Tax Act allocated $13.5 billion to the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice to reimburse states for the cost of the Biden-Harris administration's open border policies. No state suffered more than Texas. Fentanyl, drug and human trafficking, violent crime, stress on local emergency response services caused substantial damage to my district, to our state, to my constituents, to people that live and work in Texas. And in response, our state launched Operation Lone Star to secure the border when the Biden administration abdicated their responsibility to do that. We built miles of border wall. We had other barriers. We deployed state troopers, National Guard to deter the invasion that we suffered during this time period, which cost our state over $11 billion. And so as part of this Working Families Tax Act, we allocated $13.5 billion to reimburse those states. Last month, along with our senators, I led the Republican Texas delegation in sending a letter to you and Attorney General Bondi highlighting this and requesting that the state of Texas be fully reimbursed. And I wanted to get a status on that reimbursement today.
Yes, thank you. And we still to this day remain incredibly grateful to the state of Texas for their leadership during that time. That was challenging times, devastating times for what we saw happening down there. And Texas stepped up in a way that was absolutely incredible. So yes, those dollars are being formulated and allocated. If you remember, many states deployed their National Guard down there. I was governor of South Dakota at that time, and my National Guard was deployed down there as well. So reconciling the costs for every single state and looking at that allocation, we're making sure we're doing due diligence to make sure that it's appropriated correctly.
And just to be clear, I want to make sure that that money does come in the form of the reimbursement to Texas.
That's what we're working with the White House on doing, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
When it comes to what Director Kent talked about, these 18,000 people, can you give us an idea of who these people are, what type of threat they pose to us? We saw it wasn't some accident. This was an assassination and a murder. It was not an accident, despite my colleagues saying that it was an accident. It was a murder and an assassination of a National Guard hero. So what other types of threats are you tracking and preventing from happening?
Yeah, I would say, sir, that we face the terrorists that we've faced for years in ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, individuals that are here that are radicalized, but also we face the cartels as they've infiltrated our country under the last administration, their proliferation of human trafficking, drugs, and violence, going after Tren de Aragua as well, MS-13. Those individuals are still a very real, clear danger every day on the streets, and we encounter them, arrest them, and deport them and bring them to justice each and every day. Beyond that, sir, you even have gangs in cities that are localized that are terrorist organizations. The Latin Kings in Chicago are absolutely terrorists to their communities, and we work every day to make sure that we're protecting those communities. So I could not prioritize one over another because they're all killers. They're all killers, and they all are destroying families each and every day.
For both you and Director Kent, do terrorist organizations around the world, such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and others still have an intent to attack America, to attack our homeland, to utilize
Absolutely.
every method?
Absolutely. Our intelligence and our information that we deal with every single day is addressing those threats on our streets here in the United States.
Director Kent, can you give us an idea of what those tactics, techniques, and procedures could be that we need to stay alert of?
Honestly, the attacks of October 7th, the decentralized and just barbaric nature of that is the new terrorist playbook. They're not looking necessarily for a spectacular attack like we had on 9/11, but targets of opportunity like we tragically saw with the terrorist attack in Washington, D.C., these smaller cells or even individual operatives taking action. That's what has us very concerned, combined with just the sheer volume.
My time has expired. Secretary, thank you for your commitment to reimburse taxes. I yield back.
Gentleman's time's expired. I now recognize the gentleman from Rhode Island, Mr. Magaziner, for 5 minutes of questions.
Madam Secretary, how many United States military veterans have you deported?
Sir, we have not deported U.S. citizens or military veterans.
I don't believe you served in the military. I haven't either, but I think you and I can agree that as Americans, we owe everything to those who have served our country in uniform, particularly those who have served in combat. Do you agree with that?
Sir, I believe that people that are in this United States that are citizens have legal status here. Those
Madam Secretary, we are joined on Zoom by a gentleman named Sejun Park. He is a United States Army combat veteran who was shot twice while serving our country in Panama in 1989. Like many veterans, he struggled with PTSD and substance abuse after his service. He was arrested in the 1990s for some minor drug offenses, nothing serious. He never hurt anyone besides himself, and he's been clean and sober for 14 years. He is a combat veteran, a Purple Heart recipient. He has sacrificed more for this country than most people ever have. Earlier this year, you deported him to Korea, a country he hasn't lived in since he was 7 years old. Will you join me in thanking Mr. Park for his service to our country?
Sir, I'm grateful for every single person that has served our country and follows our
And
laws.
can you please tell
and knows
Mr.
that our
Park
laws
why
are
you
important
deported
and
him?
Every one of them needs to be enforced.
But you understand that many veterans struggle with PTSD, many veterans struggle with substance abuse challenges. This man took 2 bullets for our country. You have broad authority, by the way, as Secretary, to issue humanitarian parole, to do deferred action. Will you commit to at least looking at Mr. Park's case to see if you can help him find a pathway back to this country that he sacrificed so much for?
I will absolutely look at his case, but I want you
Thank
to
you.
remember that
Madam
our
Secretary, the
programs
man
need to have
behind you,
integrity as
please
well.
stand up, sir. His name is Jim Brown from Troy, Missouri. He is a Navy combat veteran who served our country in the Gulf War. He's married to a woman named Donna, who came to our country legally from Ireland when she was 11 years old. She has lived here for 48 years. Because of you, Jim's wife, Donna, has been in prison for the last 4 months. She did not come here illegally, and she has never committed any crime other than writing 2 bad checks totaling $80 10 years ago. She is currently in prison and facing deportation. Ms. Noem, will you thank Mr. Brown for his service to our country?
Thank you, Mr. Brown, for your service to our country.
Now, what possible explanation can there be for locking up his wife for 4 months when she has committed no crime other than writing a couple of bad checks for $80?
Sir, it is not my prerogative, my latitude, or my job to pick and choose which laws in this country get enforced.
You have
and
broad
which ones
discretion
don't.
as the Secretary.
We need to follow
You can issue
the law
parole, you
and
can do all
enforce
kinds
the
of things,
laws.
but you're choosing not to. Will you commit, again, to just reviewing Donna's case and reuniting this combat veteran with his beloved wife, who also loves this country?
I will review the case.
Now, Madam Secretary, you've already heard the story of Lance Corporal Alejandro Barranco, the United States Marine veteran who is behind you, who also has 2 brothers who are United States Marines. Will you thank Lance Corporal Barranco for his service?
Thank you for your service.
His father, Narcisco Barranco, is a landscaper in California who has lived peacefully in our country for 30 years and has no criminal record. Last spring, while he was mowing the lawn at an IHOP, ICE agents tackled him in the street and imprisoned him for weeks. A peaceful, hard-working man who raised 3 sons to be United States Marines. We need men of that character in this country. Again, as Secretary, you have broad discretion. Will you consider Lance Corporal Barranco's father for parole in place to stay in our country owing to the fact that he has contributed to our country by raising 3 United States Marines.
This is an opportunity to remind everybody that every person that's in this country illegally has an opportunity to voluntarily go home and come back the right way.
He
Follow
raised
our
3
laws,
United States
and we will
Marines.
facilitate that.
He has been living here
Let's-
peacefully, doing his job for 30 years. You have discretion. You are choosing not to use it. Madam Secretary, you promised America that you would go after the worst of the worst. But these people are not the worst of the worst. A Purple Heart recipient, a military spouse, the father of 3 Marines. And it's not just veterans and military families. You are locking up and deporting children with cancer, mothers with babies in the NICU, United States citizens. There are many problems with your leadership, but the biggest problem is this. You don't seem to know how to tell the difference between the good guys and the bad guys. Go after the bad guys. Go after the terrorists. Do not go after veterans, Marines, children,
Gentleman's
United
time's
States
expired.
citizens. I yield back.
Time's expired. I now recognize the gentlelady from Georgia, Ms. Green, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you. The previously Democrat-controlled administration allowed over 13 million border crossers from over 170 countries and territories to break our laws, invade our country, rape our women and children, and murder our own people. They set all-time records for the highest number of illegal aliens ever encountered in a single day at 14,500, in a single month at 370,000, and in a single year at 3 million, not including the known gotaways. Thanks to Secretary Noem and the hard work of Tom Homan and all the brave men and women at DHS, our new Republican-controlled admin has produced the safest and most secure border our country has ever seen. Thank you very much for that. For the 7th consecutive month, U.S. Border Patrol released 0 illegal aliens into the United States. Daily average apprehensions at the southern border are 95% lower than the daily average under the last administration. 10 months under Trump has seen less apprehensions than 1 month under Biden. Since January 21 through the end of November, there have been 117,105 total enforcement encounters along the southwest border, which is nearly 40% less than the monthly average during the Biden administration. Meanwhile, there has been an 8,000 increase in death threats against ICE law enforcement. Secretary Noem, back in July, the department put out a press release titled "Worst of the Worst." Criminal proceedings begin in a case of transgender illegal alien accused of rape, child rape, not just rape, child rape of a 14-year-old boy in a sanctuary New York City bathroom. I wanted to highlight this case because it encapsulates so many different violent policies of Democrats. This is an increase in trans violence with their embrace of gender ideology, an egregious catch and release policy implemented under the last 4 years, and sanctuary cities that harbor criminal illegal alien monsters that have raped and murdered many Americans. Can you discuss further what you're facing in these sanctuary cities and the illegal alien monsters that have been released into American communities under the Biden administration?
Yeah, unfortunately, Congresswoman, we arrest individuals like that every day because they're so prevalent on our streets because of what happened under the Biden administration. Every day we're able to go out and encounter and bring to justice individuals who are raping our children, murdering our mothers, our grandmothers, our families are devastated by them. And I'm shocked at the Democrats' constant defense of these individual criminals over the American citizen that is out there just trying to live their lives, put food on the table, and live the American dream. And what we do at the Department of Homeland Security by making sure that we're out enforcing the law every day is making sure that those families get a chance to do that. So I'm so grateful for them. The 8,000% increase in death threats is real. These ICE agents and CBP officers that are out on our streets doing God's work live in these communities. They live there. These are their families and their neighbors that they're protecting, and they get up every day and do that job because they believe in their mission. They take an oath, and they are honorable men and women who are serving with greatness during a challenging time when activists and radicals attack them and put their lives in danger. I think it's shameful to see the defense of individuals who break our laws. We are a nation of laws. If we are not a nation of laws, we're no nation at all. And that is what we are doing every day, is following those. If you guys don't like the law, go change it. That's your job. You don't complain. I was raised by a dad who said we don't complain about things. We fix them. Well, go fix them. If you don't like the law, quit bellyaching, quit hitting and attacking our ICE officers, quit going out and protesting and screaming vile things at them, quit calling them names. We wouldn't let our children do that. Go do something that actually matters by having an honest debate and changing the law. That's your jobs. You all should be fired, in my viewpoint.
I agree. Thank you so much for that, Secretary Noem. Back in 2021, I was one of only 16 members who voted against the Allies Act of 2021, which increased the number of special immigrant visas for Afghan nationals and loosened vetting requirements for eligibility. This brought in over 76,000 Afghans. Director Kent, what actions are being taken to identify and remove any of the 100,000 Afghan nationals admitted under the Biden admin who may have ties to terrorism, like the one who shot 2 National Guard members, tragically killing Sarah Beckstrom here in Washington, D.C.?
I'm sorry, gentlelady's time has expired, but
Can he just answer
no, we're
quickly?
keeping everything quick to the 5 minutes. I'm sorry, but gentleman from New York is now recognized, Mr. Goldman, for 5 minutes.
Secretary Noem, let's talk about the law. Do you agree that asylum is a lawful pathway to immigrate to this country? Yes or no?
There's an asylum program, yes, in place.
All right. So
It wasn't
immigrants
used under
then
the
with
Biden
ongoing asylum applications are legally in this country, correct?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Your question was?
Immigrants with ongoing asylum applications are legally in this country.
There are individuals in this country that have applications that
And they are legally here because it's a lawful pathway, right?
it's a lawful pathway.
Okay, so
And I
if
will-
your department then deports anyone with an ongoing asylum application, you are violating the law, correct?
Joe Biden left us with.
I'm not asking about Joe Biden. I'm asking you a
1.5
specific
million
question.
cases
If your
backlogged
department
asylum
deports anyone with
That's
an
the program.
ongoing asylum application,
The
you
program
are
was
violating the
greatly
law. Is that
violated.
correct?
It was greatly violated when they allowed
I'm
1.5
asking
million
you.
people to come
I'm
in and
asking you.
granted asylum applications.
Why are you filibustering? Why
by
can't you
ignoring
answer the
laws.
question? It's a
Because,
simple
Joe,
question.
Your president
If your department
and your secretary
deports
did not follow
anyone
the law
with an
which those
ongoing
applications
asylum
follow.
application, you are violating the law. Isn't that correct?
The asylum program was
Okay.
broken under the
Mr.
last.
Chairman, I will reclaim my time. She's not answering the question. But the obvious answer is that, yes, if you follow a lawful pathway, asylum is a lawful pathway. If you have an open asylum case, you are here lawfully. But the problem that we are seeing around the country is that you are not following the law. Don't tell us to change the law. If you don't like the asylum system, you change the asylum law. Bring it to us. We'll work with you. I think it needs to be changed. But you can't just decide that you're not going to follow the law, and asylum is a law, and deport people who have ongoing applications. Unfortunately, that is exactly what's happening. It's happening across the street from my office right in New York City. Numerous, thousands of people who have come to court appearances, have left them with open asylum applications, have been arrested. And then they've been shipped off and many deported. In September, one applicant was ripped away from his wife and small children after such a court appearance. And then this happened to his wife. Please play the video. No, it's not. It's not this one. All right, it's not this video. Here it is. Now, after this incident, your department issued a statement that said the officer's conduct in this video is unacceptable and beneath the men and women of ICE. Our ICE law enforcement are held to the highest professional standards, and this officer is being relieved of current duties as we conduct a full investigation. 3 days later, you reinstated that officer and you put him back on duty. I sent you a letter and asked you what investigation was done and why was he reinstated. You did not answer that letter. So I'm going to give you an opportunity right here to explain to me that if that officer's conduct was, quote, beneath the men and women of ICE, unquote, why did you reinstate him?
Sir, that investigation was completed. I can give you that investigation and the information that you would like. This is
Well, I wrote you 2 months ago. Why haven't you given it to me yet?
I'm actually surprised that you haven't gotten it. I'm going to ask my staff about that.
Well, you
because
shouldn't
I
be
have
surprised
responded
because generally
to
speaking, you
hundreds
do
and
not
hundreds, if
respond
not
to
thousands
us.
of your letters.
Now, the other problem that we are
Mayorkas, when he had
seeing
this
all
job,
over
didn't
the
respond to
country
letters for years.
is that your officers are wearing masks, are dressed in plain clothes, often going around without identification.
All of our officers are
And
identified.
I'm not asking a question. I introduced the No Secret Police Act to stop this. And we now have 113 co-sponsors so that they will not be masked and that they will identify themselves. Now, you say all of them are identifying themselves. That is not the case because last month in New York City again, the NYPD officers were injured by your masked, plainclothes ICE officers after they were called from 911 as residents witnessed your officers pulling individuals out of their vehicles and chasing them down the street. I also asked you what happened there. How were the NYPD officers injured by your officers? And you didn't respond. What's the answer?
Sir, our individual
Gentlemen's
officers
time
are
is
identified.
time has expired.
I yield
I
back.
recognize gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gonzalez, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Secretary Noem. Thank you, Director Kent and Director Glasson, for your patriotism, your service to our country. Thank you to the families for allowing everyone to serve. We're grateful for that. Democrats like to show clip after clip. I represent a district that's half of the southern border. Our lives were turned upside down under Joe Biden, and now we have our lives back due to President Trump and due to the policies that y'all are executing. So thank you. I have one question, but I'm going to try to, if there's time. I think it'd be important for the American people to get an update on the role Coast Guard played in the Venezuela oil tanker seizure. But first, I'd like to once again, thank you for being here. And so I'd like to first thank you, CISA. Thank you for keeping our nation's critical infrastructure safe. You are our nation's cyber first responders. Thank you to the Coast Guard. During our Texas floods, you showed up, Coast Guard showed up, you saved lives. Thank you to the Coast Guard for all the work that they've done in Jayada South. They've been the tip of the spear in the Southcom AOR for a long time. Their work often goes unnoticed. Thank you, HSI, for leading these anti-gang task force. They work. They're going out there. You're apprehending murderers. You're apprehending sexual offenders. You're doing it in a local, state, federal way. They're working. Thank you for that. Thank you, ICE. Thank you for keeping us safe by deporting all these people. I really appreciate the innovative idea of DHS owning its own airplanes. It's ridiculous that we had to essentially contract out in order to have these repatriation flights. That is a game changer. Thank you for that. Thank you, ERO, for adding bed space. This is exactly how we continue to deport the millions of convicted criminal aliens that are in this country. Thank you, NCTC, for keeping us safe. You're exactly right. We thank you for vetting, for going out and finally doing the role of vetting these people. You and I served overseas. Many of us did. And we know oftentimes it was more dangerous at the chow hall than outside the wire, right? So thank you for that vetting. Thank you, Border Patrol, for ending catch and release. Thank you, TSA, for keeping us safe during all our travel, and then also looking into any future vulnerabilities. Thank you, Secret Service. Thank you for not only keeping our leaders safe, but a lot of people don't realize Secret Service is key to school safety. I think that's just so important that brings us all together. I wanted to say I want to use the bulk of my time to just thank you, because we don't do that enough here. It's always finger pointing. It's always somebody else's fault. Please go back to your agencies and thank the men and women that are serving every day and helping to keep this country safe. With that, I'd like to give you a little time to talk about the Venezuelan situation and what the Coast Guard is doing.
The operation that was conducted yesterday morning was a Coast Guard-led operation. It was in partnership with the Department of War and the Department of Justice, the FBI as well, and it was a successful operation directed by the president to ensure that we're pushing back on a regime that is systematically covering and flooding our country with deadly drugs and killing our next generation of Americans. Just the drugs that the Coast Guard has been able to interdict on the waters Since that President Trump has been in office, has been enough lethal doses of cocaine to kill 177 million Americans. That's 2/3 of our country that has been saved by blowing up, by going after and bringing to justice these individuals that are out at sea and those individuals that are funding it with a shadow fleet of sanctioned oil that should never be sold to benefit their profits and their pockets to kill Americans.
Thank you for that update. For many of us, it served in uniform. Oftentimes, it was overseas. It was in the Middle East, or it was in Asia, or it was in Europe. And I think those AORs are very important. But for too long, president after president after president, our backyard has been left wide open, and we are completely shocked why all these terrorists are in our country and all these people are unvetted, all this chaos is happening when in our own backyard was unsafe. So thank you again for one. I know you traveled, you met with heads of state, El Salvador, Mexico, a couple that come to mind. But I just want to thank you and for making our backyard a priority and ultimately to keep Americans safe. Texans are more safe today than we were a year ago. And a lot of that is due to President Trump and due to the leadership that I'm seeing right here of executing those policies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. With that, Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentlelady from Illinois, Ms. Ramirez, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Chairman.
American citizens have been arrested or detained. We focus on those that are here illegally.
Secretary Noem, you lie and you lied to the American people. I will be including into the record an article by ProPublica from October 16, 2025, entitled, "We found that more than 170 U.S. citizens have been held by immigration agents. They've been kicked." There's nothing smiling about U.S. citizens. I'm sorry, that's very inappropriate. Let me continue. They've been kicked, dragged, and detained for days. The next one.
The Trump administration has specifically targeted the worst of the worst. The individuals that we are going after are those that are violent criminals, those that are breaking our laws.
Secretary Noem, again, you lied to the American people. I will be including into the record an article by the NBC News from December 7, 2025, entitled, "ICE has arrested nearly 75,000 people with no criminal records, data shows." A co-equal branch of government, and it is your obligation as a member of the executive branch to honor decisions made by the highest court of the land. Yes or no, Secretary?
We are
Yes.
abiding by all federal judges' orders. Absolutely.
The Justice Department said that when the administration was ordered back in March to stop sending detained migrants to a mega prison in El Salvador, you personally made the final call to continue the flights anyway. Is that correct?
And the decisions that are made on deportations, where flights go and when they go, are my decision at the Department of Homeland Security. And we'll continue to do the right thing, continue to work and protect Americans, no matter what radical judge comes out and tries to stop us. We'll do.
You lied on the record, and you lied to members of this committee. You violated court orders by not turning around deportation flights bound for El Salvador, where we know that hundreds of people under your leadership have reported that they were raped, they were beaten, and they nearly died. And your agents used chemical weapons in Chicago despite court orders from District Court Judge Ellis forbidding their use. Secretary Noem, you, Gregory Bovino, and your ICBP and DHS deputized agents have waged an unaccountable, unlawful, unconstitutional war against communities across the nation. Our residents have been surveilled, they've been threatened, they've been tear gassed, they've been hit with pepper balls, they've been shot, they've been subjected to warrantless arrest and precision immobilization maneuvers, they've been kidnapped and disappeared under your leadership. So we have a lot to talk about. But you and your department continue to reject congressional oversight. And you know how I know this? I know this because I've requested a meeting with ICE Field Office Director Russell Hutt. I requested a meeting with Field Office Director Samuel Olson. And when you came to Chicago on October 3rd, I publicly and formally requested a meeting with you. So I'm going to be including a letter I sent on October 3rd requesting a meeting with Secretary Noem. So Secretary Noem, I want to ask you again, will you commit to meet with me, yes or no?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. So we have a lot to talk about, and actually my scheduler has a couple dates that I'll get to you after this meeting. I appreciate that. So look, I want to be very clear. You have misused resources appropriated by Congress. You've engaged in unethical behavior. You have repeatedly made false and misleading statements to Congress and to the press, and you've undermined the separation of powers and disregarded the role of Congress and the courts. Bottom line, you lie with impunity. You reject checks and balances, and you ignore Congress and the courts. Your options are limited. Either you're going to resign, Trump's going to fire you, or you will be impeached. I've already called for your resignation. You may remember I hand-delivered my request to you back in May, and I urge you to reconsider resignation because I've taken the first step towards your impeachment, and I've called on the Judiciary Committee to open an investigation into your lawlessness. Mr. Chairman, I know that at the end we'll be entering a number of articles into consent, but since I have a few moments, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter calling the Judiciary Committee to investigate Secretary Noem's impeachable offenses. Whatever you choose, the American people will have justice, Secretary, and you will be held accountable. I'm going to make sure of that every single day. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Luttrell, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Secretary. It's good to see you, and thank you again for coming to Texas after the Kerrville floods. Your team was amazing. Their interaction with the leadership in our state, up and down the chain of command, was outstanding. Not something I read about. I saw it. So I'm speaking from the truth. So let's talk about worldwide threats, if you don't mind. This may go back and forth to Mr. Glasheen and Mr. Kent. My questions, first and foremost, is the nefarious actors globally, they're kind of everywhere. And as we try to protect the motherland in the cyberspace, air, sea, and land, something that's come to my attention in the committee hearing we had earlier, undersea cabling. And I don't know if you're a subject matter expert on this. I really wasn't until this hearing. But a large amount of our information flows under the water, something that most people aren't aware of, but I can assure you that the bad actors globally probably are. Now, it's multi-jurisdictional from what I understand. It's the Department of Justice, it's Department of War, and then it's Department of Homeland Security. And they kind of juggle the effort. Can you give me some insight on the protection mechanism that Homeland Security has for our undersea cabling? And I consider this a very viable threat specifically for information flow, considering everything that goes back and forth across the water. Can you give me a kind of a high-level briefing considering the atmosphere of what we're looking at?
Yes, I can, and I'll try to leave some time for the other individuals too, but the Department of Homeland Security has 23 different components. Several of them have some responsibility for surveillance and monitoring of those cables and the information that flows through them. So CISA is our cybersecurity agency, which looks for bad actors, hunts down those bad actors, and then hardens our systems. So where we see a weakness or a vulnerability, they help us do that with the interactions we have with private companies, their communications, or other countries. But then we also have our Coast Guard out on the waters each and every day, which help us with surveillance activities to see if there's nefarious. They're the ones who are coordinating with our intelligence agencies on what we see as hacking attempts or enemies that would try to endanger those cables or cut them, damage them so that they couldn't be utilized to keep our critical infrastructure going. FEMA is the agency that's responsible for, on our worst day, if we needed something or someone to run the government, if there was an attack in this country, FEMA is the agency that would do that and maintains the resources to making sure that we have an operating government in an emergency disaster situation.
I know there's redundancy on the cabling system, and there's from what I understand, there's over 1 million miles of cable underwater. I want to make sure that we have enough protection in place so the ripple effect is not catastrophic to the country. Mr. Kent, you got something to add to that? I was going to shift over to Mr. Glasheen.
In terms of undersea cabling, no, I do not.
Okay. Mr. Glissine, I have a question for you. So as far as trafficking, human trafficking, drug trafficking, this always hurts me to say this, but Houston, Texas is in my district, and it is the worst city in the country for sex trafficking in the country. I just cannot believe that. What is the FBI doing amongst other agencies? You just happen to be sitting here in front of me. And Madam Secretary, you can probably jump in on this too. Enough's enough. I understand the complexities of the World Wide Web and how these bastards are doing this, and we can't seem to grab a hold of them. What's the answer?
Our HSI investigators specialize in child trafficking and human trafficking. They get up every single day and hunt down those individuals that victimize our children and partner with nonprofits and other agencies with the FBI to do that. Yes, it's shocking to me that Houston is one of the hotbeds as well.
We need to take a better look at this because we're losing. I mean, we're losing so bad, I don't even know how to define it. And this has been happening. I said this exact same thing to Mr. Mayorkas, and if I was here before that, I'd say the same thing again. It's just, we have not figured it out. Mr. Glissine, you got anything for that?
Yeah, I would tell you, it's been a priority with this director. And, you know, so far this year, compared to last year, we have 300 plus human traffickers arrested, up 15%.
I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Chairman, I yield that.
I appreciate that, and
I'll catch you after class.
If one of the following witnesses wants to give him some time to answer that very important question, they can do that. Gentleman yields back. I now recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Kennedy, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, with about a year as DHS Secretary under your belt, there's no shortage of criticisms for me to choose from today. You've deported American citizens, bringing a level of inhumanity to this nation's immigration laws that I haven't seen in my lifetime. You've terrorized communities, including my own in Buffalo, New York, vowing to go after the worst of the worst, but instead detaining women, children, and hardworking individuals in pursuit of the American dream. You've botched a response to one of the most devastating floods we've seen, an extreme weather event along the Guadalupe River that took more than 130 innocent lives, including more than 35 children. Central Texas waited days for your agency to respond because of the reckless policies you've implemented. Your FEMA lead was missing in action, completely unreachable, as were FEMA's call lines, with 84% of calls unanswered on July 7th, 3 days after the floods. FEMA personnel, despite your slashing of their ranks, who were ready and willing to help, waited days to spring into action because of your policies. Disasters do not wait for bureaucracy. Your abysmal performance goes beyond your woeful disaster response. You've also taken a sledgehammer to FEMA's recovery, preparedness, and mitigation missions. You canceled more than $4 billion in building resilient infrastructure and communities funds, a program that helps communities reduce their risk of natural disasters. You withheld millions in FEMA funds for emergency alerting infrastructure found to be in violation of the Impound Control Act. You, perhaps most critical to my state of New York, canceled more than 90% of New York State's Homeland Security program funding, including $134 million in urban area security initiative funds for New York City's greater metropolitan areas. You have mismanaged these grants to the point where cities and states, including New York, are suing you to recover counterterrorism funding that's lawfully theirs and that Congress intended for them to receive. It's a tragedy that we're here today discussing these cuts to counterterrorism and security grant funds for a city that was the main site of the September 11th attacks, the entire reason your department was established in the first place. As the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Emergency Management, it's my responsibility to show the American public how you've systemically upended FEMA and emergency preparedness as we know it. So I have a couple of questions. Simple yes or no answer will suffice. Would you agree with the national security officials' assessment that the United States has been operating in a heightened threat environment